This video is brought to you by Dr. Kristen R. Bromley's Guitar Method Book Series and Online Music Academy.
Hi, I'm Dr. Kristen Bromley. Welcome to my online academy. I love being here helping you with playing the guitar. In this video, we're going to take a look at the rhythmic value of rests that we read in standard music notation. We're going to jam together on some exercises where we work on reading rhythms that have these rests. It's going to be great. Now, this video does accompany lesson 4 from my note reading books 1 and 2 method book. If you have that book, you're going to want to turn to page 23. We're going to be working together with the materials on page 23. Okay, so let's take a look at the value of these rests. Just like we have a whole note, a half note, a quarter note, and right now we've even been working with dotted half notes. Just like we have those, we have the equivalent in rests, or a period of time where we don't play. Sort of silence, but it doesn't mean silence is happening in a song. It just means that we're not actually playing any sounds with the guitar at that time when we're the one reading that notation. So we've got a whole rest worth 4 counts, just like a whole note. Then we've got a half rest and a quarter rest. And of course, if we have a dot sitting next to a rest, just like if we have a dot sitting next to a note, it adds half the value of that note to the length of that note, or rest in this case. So a dotted half rest is worth 3 counts. Now, over the years, trying to learn rests, some of my students have had different tricks, and I've had different tricks. When I was really young, I used to remind myself that a whole rest was the one hanging on to the line above, because it was doing a whole lot more work by holding on, whereas the rest that's sitting on the line beneath it is doing like half as much work, or maybe even less actually, because it's sitting down. So it's not having to do so much, the whole amount of work by holding on it sitting down. I also had a student tell me that a whole gentleman tips his hat to the ladies. This looks like a tipped hat. A half a gentleman doesn't tip his hat to the ladies, so he keeps his hat on. That's sort of a way to remember the difference between the whole rest and the half rest, and of course then we add that dot to the half rest, and we get that dotted half rest worth 3 counts. The quarter rest kind of looks like a squirrely one, so it's kind of easy that way. So that's the value of the rests, and now to really practice with that, we need to jam together on some exercises. We've got exercises 1 through 5 there on page 23. We're going to go ahead and work together on these as we incorporate reading those rests into what we've been working on already. We're going to do this, you, me, and the drums. There'll be a little drum groove that sort of keeps us going. Now there's a couple different ways that you can go through these exercises. One would be just to clap, or even just strum muted strings or pluck a muted string at the places where the actual note values come in. If you want to go a step further and practice the sound of the rests, then using like an open string or any string actually to play them is great. They're all sitting on the B line, so as I go through these exercises with you, I'm just going to play the open B string. The open string adds a little bit of a trick to it when we're playing a rest value, because we actually have to mute the string, so I sort of picked that. If you were to play that note at the 4th fret on the 3rd string alternatively, or something like that, then you can actually just lift your hand to create the sound of the rest. So with number 1 there, if I go 1, 2, 3, 4, that note can keep ringing over past, and now I've got a rest. So to make that rest actually happen, I'm just going to mute that string, and I can use my right hand to just sort of bring my fingers up against it and touch that string, or I can use my left hand and just grab and touch that string lightly. So it'd be like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then rest. I would just stop that string from ringing. If I was playing that note alternatively at the 4th fret on the 3rd string, which we don't really do right now in what we've been reading with notes, we've just been using G and A on that 3rd string, but actually if you go up to the 4th fret, you will get a B pitch. If I'm playing that note, or any note that's pressed down where I'm using a finger to press it down, all I have to do to get it to stop ringing is to lift the pressure off, but then not take my finger off the string. So I just lift that pressure and it comes off. So you could play them there like 1, 2, 3, 4, rest, 2, 3, 4, and it brings that in. Okay, so we're going to jam together with these exercises, you, me, and the drums. So the drum groove isn't going to stop, but we'll just play that melody. And you could play any note. You don't have to play the B note, but that's how I'm going to play them as we're jamming on the exercises, so you may want to do that as well, just to get used to reading some of these rhythms. We'll get a count-off measure and the drums, and then we will be in. And if it's a little difficult at first to try and mute the strings, just worry about playing the notes where they happen, and then later you can try adding in those rests, muting that string where you need to. These will happen at 2 different tempos, at a slower tempo and a faster tempo. So you get 2 different tempos that you can work on these with, just like all the songs that we jam together on with this note reading book. Okay, so it's going to be great. Let's go ahead and jam together on these exercises. Okay, I hope that was fun for you. Now, in the next video that comes out, we're going to jam together on the melodies that are found in Lesson 4, which also have some rests worked into them. So it's going to be super fun. I'll see you in that next video. Thanks for watching this video. If you found it helpful, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. And be sure to check out more great content. You can find more information about me and my products at KristenBromley.com. Take care.